pen made mightier without wood.
Welcome back, trainers. This week we're going to be talking about one of the most influential villains to ever grace the stage of Pokemon. We're talking about N this week on Pen Made Mightier. For those of you who are unaware, this is N. N has a real name, and it's exceedingly stupid. His name is, Natural Harmonia Gropius.
What?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Natural Harmonia Gropius. That is this person's name. Yeah, he's a person who truly cares about his Pokemon to a deep personal level and believes that they should be set free rather than forced to endure unending battles. And he's got a very complex and deep backstory. In fact, one of the deepest I think Pokemon has ever had. And I've got a bit of a theory on that. You see, I believe that in addition to the fact that he's so charismatic that he can talk Pokemon into betraying their owners, that's in the manga and the anime, I think, but not really in the game, so you can discard that as tertiary if you need to. In addition to being that, in addition to being someone who comes up and, for the first time ever, doesn't curse your very existence for being better than him, but rather seeks to enlighten you and to teach you about a different way of thinking. In addition to being someone who will do anything to befriend legendary Pokemon because he just wants to be on their same level. In fact, when you battle in Charged Stone Cave, he has a wonderful bit of dialogue that just really hit me in the heart and just did not let me go. He said, "Do you believe that Pokemon battles help us understand one another?" Throughout the entire fight, I started thinking about it. I was like, why do I do this? What do I learn from this? Do I actually get closer to anybody, or is it just for my own sick amusement? Then when you beat him, he says, "My friend's getting hurt." That's what a Pokemon battle is. It's then revealed that he releases all of the Pokemon that he had. You find that out in Black and White too, through a Team Plasma member's memory link, that he released all of his Pokemon then and there, and went out and got another team to willingly fight for him later, because he changes teams every single time you face him. A bunch of wild Pokemon that say they'll fight for him. Really made me feel bad forcing all of my Pokemon to live in. In addition to being one of the kindest and, well, honestly, most handsome antagonists that Pokemon has ever had, I think that there's something more to it. The theory gets a lot of hate online, but I've got a lot of evidence for it. I think N is actually a Zoroark. And I'm going to explain to you why. And I think that by the end of it, you might see things my way. Okay, so the general story of N, or Natural, whatever you want to call it, is that he was found in the woods, living among Pokemon, by himself, and this jackass named Geistis is like, "Guess what? You're my son now."
What?
Just picks the kid up, takes him off to live in a castle, and raises him to be king of all he surveys. Yeah, that's a thing. It's weird, right? It doesn't set right. It's just odd. N even claims to be raised by Pokemon, and he distrusts human and speaks directly to Pokemon. Yeah, he can speak the Pokemon language. It's the only human I've ever known that could do it outside of Ash and Pikachu knowing a few words of each other's language. N can speak directly to the hearts of Pokemon. Yeah, it's strange. He was isolated from humans, raised in this tiny room, and only allowed to interact with Pokemon that had been abused by their trainers, so that he grew up thinking that Pokemon were to be freed and that they were being mistreated. And wow, that's really dark when you think about it. But it would explain why this amazing trainer would have a deep connection with Pokemon and why he would empathize with their plight to get them out of their prisons and back out into the world, especially if he was raised by Pokemon. Although how that happened and why his name is Natural Harmonia Gropius.
What?
Well, that's why I got a theory. You see, N's entire goal isn't to be famous or to be beloved or to be amazing. He just wants to free all Pokemon and befriend the legendary dragon of whatever game you're playing. If we're talking about pure physical characteristics, he does stand in a strange way. He's very fluid, and in addition to that, he has long flowing hair, much like a Zoroark. He even has strange tufts right here in about the places where Zoroark's ears would be. And if you look close, his eyes are the same shape and color. It's just that normally his eyes are seen from the bottom as a human, and Zoroark's are seen from the top like this, because of the way they stand. From the Pokedex entries about Zora, it transforms into its foes in order to find an opportunity to escape. And it even says in there, people and Pokemon. So if Geistis wandered into the woods and found Zora and it transformed into him, it being a child, would transform to a smaller, more childish version of something that looked like Geistis. So it transforms into this person and he says, oh, okay, what's your name? Zoras don't know human speech, obviously, or if they did, probably not very well. Although the one in Zoroark Master of Illusions could talk to the human mind, and Meowth can talk, and there's plenty of Pokemon who can talk now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah, N can't be a Pokemon. Pokemon don't speak. He doesn't say Zora. Well, guess what? Most of the Zoras we've seen don't say Zora. Deal with it. So he says, hey, you there, little human child, wink wink, says Geistis, what is your name? And the little Zora says, I'm Natural Harmonia, Gropius.
What?
And thus the world's stupidest name is born. Geistis says, oh god, your name is Natural Harmonia Gropius?
What?
Alright, we're calling you N, son, come on, and just scoops him up and takes him off, to live. So he scoops him up, takes him off to become the man who would be king, and tells him that if he just works with him, not only will he not capture him, but he can work with him to free all Pokemon from their encapturement. He does a Jedi mind trick on this kid and screws with his head. I think that makes all kinds of sense. In N's room, most of the toys are even scuffed and scratched with claw marks. It's easy to say this is from the abused Pokemon that he was given to live with, but it did seem strange to me that they specifically mentioned claw marks. Now, I'm not saying these claw marks say 100% of the fact that N is Zora. I'm just saying it's something that kind of lends a little bit of credence to it, so there's that. You know, in X and Y, you can even find Zora in the Pokemon Sanctuary. Pokemon Sanctuary being a place where abused Pokemon can escape to, and where they can be free. It did seem interesting to me that one of these signature Pokemon of N's would end up in the Pokemon Sanctuary. If N was a Zora, it's probably where he'd go, if you think about it. Again, no hard proof, but for the thought. But I hear you say, N uses Pokeballs. N moves his mouth when he talks, so he's not talking to your brain. And he's got his own Pokemon, does all these human things. Well, of course he does. I mean, if you were trying to trick someone into thinking that you're something you're not, you'd have to do all the prerequisite things. And I understand you might think that's problematic, but I've got some evidence to the contrary. First off, in-game, there is a woman living in a camper out in the woods who doesn't say anything. If you bring her one of the legendary 3 dogs, Raikou, Entei, or Suicune that you got specifically from the Zoroark Master of Illusions movie, she will howl and attack you, revealing herself to be a Zoroark. If you then defeat or capture her, the entire forest changes. Not just that one section. Sections of the forest exist that did not exist before. The camper is gone. The camper was part of Zoroark's illusion. It made an illusion so big, it encompassed an entire forest. So, even if I didn't think that N was using Pokeballs, which I do, and I'll explain more about later, this illusion would be simple for a Zoroark to put up. It wouldn't even be a challenge, and it's in black and white, as if to say, yes, Zoroark is incredible, and look at all that it can do. But there are 3 pieces of information from Pokemon Black and White 2 that really set this in stone for me. The first is Victory Road. In Victory Road, at one point, you'll find a Zoroark. He's just hanging out, he runs up to you, says his little spiel, and tells you to follow him. Not overtly, but, motions. If you follow him, he runs down some ruins, he runs down into this cave, he runs into a castle hidden away at the end of everything, and in this little hole-in-the-wall room, you don't find a Zoroark, you find N. Doesn't even have a Zoroark on his team, but N is there. Interesting. The second piece of evidence is the memory links. In Pokemon Black and White 2, for those of you who didn't play, there was this thing where you could go to certain people and talk to them and see flashbacks, basically. Pieces of their past that explain the gap between Pokemon Black and White, Pokemon Black and White 2, or sometimes even older information before Pokemon Black and White. And it was interesting to see what motivated certain characters and what facilitated certain changes, but no matter where the memory link was, it was always about the person telling you. The exception of one. It was in one room, boom, it's a Zoroark. It says its little oh, and you're greeted by a memory link of two plasma members talking to each other about whether or not they're going to continue following N or if they're just going to jump ship and bail. In the end, they both decide that following Master N is the right thing to do and that they should hold up his ideals and fight for the release of all Pokemon. And then out of the shadows steps N. And he talks about how he's done wrong and about how he feels he should just disappear. There's no Zoroark in the entire memory link. And when you come back from the memory link, Zoroark is gone. N says he needs to disappear. There's no Zoroark in the scene. And when we come back to it, there's no Zoroark and no N. They vanished. He vanished. At least that's what I think. The last piece of evidence that I really wanted to talk about, though, is from Black and White 2. When you're confronting Geistis, who has just made the fusion QREM to fight against you. Geistis is droning on about how powerful QREM is and about how he thinks that the Pokemon on your side are itching to fight him, but then he chastises himself and he says, "No, simple tools don't have emotion or thought. Come, challenge QREM. Just so you know, catching it is impossible. My cane emits signals that disrupt the function of all Pokeballs." Yeah. Geistis, N's caretaker for, whatever reason, has a staff that stops Pokeballs from working. Why in Arceus's green earth would you have a staff that stops Pokeballs from working? Unless you had a Pokemon you didn't want to accidentally get caught. This would let N handle Pokeballs. It would allow him to throw Pokeballs because then when they hit, they'd be outside the range of the staff. It would allow him to actually catch Pokemon and appear human. Why else would you have such a staff? When is there ever a time in which you don't want Pokeballs to work other than this one very specific instance he had no way of knowing was going to come about? It just makes me wonder. It also makes me wonder about the cube that N wears as a necklace. It looks similar, at least in type, to the metal that is used in Geistis' staff. Could it be a miniaturization? Could it be that N's bracelet or his necklace is just more of that same technology to keep Pokeballs from capturing him at any given moment? I think so. In fact, at one point, Geistis even says he's nothing more than a freak without a human heart. It could just be that he's insulting N, that he really does think that little of him, or it could be that he's talking about N's true nature. Whatever the case, I think it's good that we all try and work together with nature. Whether or not N was actually a Zoroark or just a very interesting trainer with a mysterious and shady past, he's definitely one of the most interesting characters that Pokemon ever dreamed up. So, next time you start thinking about trying to catch yourself a Turtwig, just think about the fact that these little guys are amazing and that N is watching over you. So, do you think N was a Zoroark? Do you think I'm just off my rocker? Or do you just think that Tesla here is the most adorable turtle you've ever seen?
What?
I sure do. So, yeah, talk about it in the comments. Maybe we can shed some more light on N's mysterious past. And until next time, thanks for sticking with me on Pen-Made Mightier. Bye now.
Ba 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 da ba ba da ba 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 ba.